Good afternoon. My name is Maya Hayakawa, and you're watching Inside Business. We start our bulletin with an apology to Telkom Kenya. In one of our stories about corporates laying off staff last night, we alluded to Telkom Kenya planning to send home part of its workforce this year. What we intended to say is that Telkom had sent home the said staff last year in a workforce rationalization exercise. We regret the inconvenience the report might have caused Telkom Kenya and sincerely apologize for that error. Trump's presidency already taking effect. It's also said that he's not interested in the AGOA agreement. So let's see what he'll do about that. But moving on, the public service is the largest employer in the economy. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the sector has about 718,000 employees. The wage bill for these employees is 11.7% of the country's gross domestic product. The government paid salaries and allowances for 568 billion shillings in the last financial year. But the remuneration packages seem not to be fair for all government employees. And this could be just one of the reasons for continuous industrial action in the country, from the doctors to the nurses, teachers, and lecturers. Now, this week's Super Tuesday, K24 Business takes a special focus on the continued industrial actions. And joining me in studio is advocate and head of policy and campaign at Action Aid International Kenya, Ruth Masime, to give us a bit of perspective on this matter. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Maya.
My first question now, from doctors to nurses, teachers, lecturers, it seems that the country is continuously on strikes. Where have we gone wrong? Particularly in the collective agreements.
Exactly. Clearly, it seems that we may look like we are not on the right foot. But it's important to also say that at the bargaining agreement that is usually signed, they are first and foremost signed after a recognition. Yeah, a recognition that is usually written and signed and agreed upon, a recognition agreement that is agreed, that then spells out the rights and privileges of each party. And the parties in this case are the employers and the employees. And the employers can be represented either by trade union, as has been the case, and the employers can be equally be represented. They can stand on their own, but they can equally be represented by an organization like the Federation of Employers in Kenya. And in this sense, then when they do a recognition agreement, it sets the stage for bargaining agreement. And we can see quite a number of trade unions, big trade unions in Kenya. They've been doing the CBAs, yeah? Now, the CBAs are then, because they're legally binding, for them to be legally binding and to be implemented, they have to be registered, yeah? So the CBAs are actually governed by two basic acts, the Employment Act and Labor Relations Act. And Labor Relations, the Employment Act is the one that brings in the aspect of registration. And the registration, then it means that the employer has to present that CBA to the CBA agreement, which is written and probably signed, to the court, the industrial court, and the court now looks at it, and within, if it's satisfied with it, within 14 days, it can either in its own volition decide to change the effects or change the wordings of the CBA, or it can equally tell the parties involved to redo it, or it can refuse to do that. And in 14 days, then it means it has to be registered. So what particularly the doctors are saying, this is a CBA that was agreed in 2013. Can it then now be registered? Can it then be implemented? So those are the issues that we've been grappling with, and even the lecturers right now are saying that yes, we have a CBA that was agreed upon, and we now want it to be registered and implemented. And we can also see the students all over the country, because of the effects of the strike, they're saying, look here, even as we are affected. So clearly everyone is affected. But looking at the number of the CBAs and the number of times that the trade unions members have gone on strike, it clearly will then tell you that the trend in the CBA implementation has not been it's not above average. It's quite below average.
So looking at the implementation of some of these agreements, where then is the challenge? Is it that we don't have the policies and the frameworks there, or is it simply the personnel where we're really unable to implement these agreements?
The agreements in itself are not the problem. because the agreement basically spells out the terms and the conditions of employment. And these are terms and conditions of employment with people who've agreed. Yeah, employers have agreed, and the employees are saying, look here, we need our terms and our conditions of working reviewed, and something related to that. And they agree. So at the registration and implementation, it becomes a problem. And majorly, we could see the teachers, we can see the doctors, we can see the lecturers, and they clearly are telling you they're placing the responsibility on the state. So it is the state that then, through its various ministries or departments, agree. Then at the time of registering the CBA or and implementing it, it becomes a challenge. Yeah. So probably it would be good to say probably at the development of the CBA, lots of thinking doesn't go into what is the words, or the effects, the likely effect and consequences of the CBA. Because if thoughts and lots of thoughts at that matter of what the wordings and the effects of CBA is going to be to the economy, then we could be seeing at that time, yeah, at that time the government or whoever, the state apparatus saying, look here, we cannot agree on these terms. Yeah.
Now, earlier you had talked about the rights of the employees and the rights of the employer. What are the legal conditions for a strike, and at what point does it become unconstitutional?
Actually, the current Constitution 2010 gives every employee in Kenya the right to strike. Yes? Mm-hmm. The Constitution Article 41 expressly says that you have a right to strike. So it means it's an express right given by the Constitution. Mm-hmm. However, you must give notice, yes, and you must also explore, though these are not in the Constitution. Yeah, but under the Labor Relations Act, it tells you that you must at least give a notice of 7 days. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and after the 7, and you're giving notice after the dialogue. Yeah, trying to talk to each other in good faith, because that is usually in the recognition agreement. That every time we are coming on this table to talk about the terms and conditions, we are coming in good faith. Now, when the dialogue has failed, you're actually allowed to give a 7 days notice, and if the 7 days notice elapses, you actually have a right to go on with the strike. However, there are protected strikes, there are protected and unprotected strikes. In this sense, when we say protected, it means yes, there was a dispute, you tried to talk about or over the dispute, and agreement was not reached. You gave the 7-day notice, and you're on strike right away. And the sector you're in or whatever you're doing is not an essential service. And the Act describes an essential service to be that which is not detrimental to life, person, or the health of the population. So clearly, for example, like when the teachers were on strike, that really was not really an essential service as such. But when we talk about the doctors, I heard in the news that quite a number of people have lost life due to the strike. Mm-hmm. It means, clearly tells you that directly an essential service. And probably, I don't want to open the merits and demerits of the court decision, but probably those are the reasons why the court termed this strike as unprotected. Mm-hmm. Now, when you're dealing with unprotected strike, as it is for the doctors right now, because the industrial court said it's unprotected, it means your contractual relationship is not protected.
Speaking of which, it's reported that 4,000 doctors will be sent home this week, the doctors that participated in the strike. And so the question that I have is it legal to fire your employees if they participate in a strike? I'm guessing this is where the protected and unprotected strikes come in.
Exactly. And that is why I'm bringing in the issue of protected and unprotected. But also even here we must say that it's not legal. It's not good to to overplay it or to underplay or not to follow the courts of the order of the courts, because then you're breaching a constitutional requirement. However, right now the doctors' strike has been termed as very unprotected. It means then when the strike is unprotected, it means your employer has a right to issue disciplinary measures and also even withhold the salaries, and they can replace your services for that duration of time that you're on strike. But of recent times, we've seen that happening. We've seen the governor saying that, yes, we are getting another set of doctors, but clearly you could see it has not worked. So the facilities that the employer has, they're not, yes, they have a right, they have the facilities, but they're not facilities that really can get us back to the health services, access to the health services the way it should be.
Let's talk about the teachers for a minute now, talking about the agreements, and when it comes to the implementation of these agreements, it was agreed that they would have their salaries increased by 50%, but of course have failed to do so. So in the case that CBA are not fulfilled, what options do employees have in the legal space? I
hear you, Maya, and thank you, because the employees have another recourse, and the recourse here mainly is the High Court. It's the Court of Law, because the Court of Law exists purposely to solve disputes. And me and you, whenever we have a dispute, we have to go to the courts. And even in this case, that the courts are present, and you can go from the industrial court, you can go to the Court of Appeal, and you can go up to the Supreme Court. We've not had anything from the Supreme Court yet. So they still have some leeway. They still have some window of dispute resolution. But equally, like I've had others allude, that a dispute resolution committee or something that involves the parties and an external person can sit down and see how best to resolve the matter.
Thank you very much for your time.